Viewer discretion is advised.
You do meth?
Yeah, I haven't done meth in 2 weeks, but I do meth.
Oh my God!
Is he dead?
I don't know.
This story focuses around Braden Peters, also known as Clavicular, an online influencer who's one of the pioneers of something called Looksmaxxing.
Two of those men are social media influencers, Braden Peters, who goes by Clavicular.
All right, chat, we're locked, we're dialed. We're actually dialed.
I think that, for most of history, if you were a man, the way that you attracted a woman or whatever is that you, became a provider.
Holy.
What? Having taken too much of a substance and getting these scratches on his face from some sort of respirator that was used.
He did not speak, but he did answer just one question that I asked him.
I would say no. I think I would wholeheartedly disagree with that statement.
Messed me up. Look at my jaw. I can't even close it right anymore. I don't look like me. I'm ruined.
Controversial influencer Clavicular says he is home from the hospital after he appeared to suffer an overdose during a live stream last night.
Man, I ain't gonna be doing any more substances for a little while.
On this live stream, he live streamed constantly and then appears to overdose. He is carried out of this nightclub by security, loaded into a waiting SUV. You can see.
And your romantic life, and to a certain extent, like getting a job and all this other stuff, is to be attractive.
His name is Braden Peters. He's 20 years old, and in less than 12 months, he ran someone over with his car, walked New York Fashion Week, overdosed on livestream, got arrested twice, and somehow became one of the most talked about people on the internet. He beats his face with a hammer. He says the bone grows back stronger. He injected his 17-year-old girlfriend with fat-dissolving chemicals on a live stream for views. 3 days after his arrest, he walked New York Fashion Week. He was in a Miami nightclub singing Kanye's antisemitic song with Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes. He is 20 years old, and this is not the ending. This is the middle. Before any of that, before the Cybertruck and the overdose and the cameras and the controversy, there was just a kid from New Jersey. Braden Eric Peters, born on December 17, 2005 in Hoboken, New Jersey. His father, Kenneth, ran a business. His mother, Lauren, stayed home and raised the kids. Lauren was also a former bodybuilder, and the family had a home gym. The detail matters. Braden grew up in a household where the body was always treated as a project. He has a younger sister who has appeared on his streams. He attended Seton Hall Preparatory School in West Orange, New Jersey, a prestigious private Catholic school. On paper, the childhood looked fine. Stable family, good school, nice neighborhood. But underneath the surface, something wasn't connecting. Braden has described himself as a socially awkward teenager. He struggled with social cues and small talk. He has never been formally diagnosed with autism, but he routinely refers to himself as an autist and describes his way of seeing the world as a gift rather than a limitation. What it meant in practice was that high school felt alienating. He didn't read social situations the way other kids did. He didn't know how to perform normal, and that cost him. He was bullied, relentlessly, in person and online. And rather than just retreating, he went looking for a world where the rules made more sense to him, where his way of thinking, obsessive, analytical, data-driven, was actually useful. He found it, eventually, on the internet. The path started somewhere almost innocent. Nerf guns, then YouTube, specifically Rich Piana, a bodybuilder and YouTube personality known for radical openness about extreme bodybuilding, steroid use, and physical transformation. Piana died in 2017, but his videos never disappeared. For a certain kind of teenager looking for a framework about what a man's body could become, those videos were a gateway. For Braden, they were an introduction to a world where physical transformation wasn't aspirational, it was the whole point. Rich Piana led to bodybuilding forums. Forums led to 4chan. and 4chan eventually led to a website called Looksmaxx.org. Looksmaxx.org is the central forum of Looksmaxxing culture, a community where members analyze, debate, and optimize male attractiveness as if it were a hard science. Jawlines, bone structure, shoulder-to-waist ratios, clavicle width. Everything measurable, everything improvable. The core belief? Your appearance determines your social rank, your sexual prospects, and your place in the world. And therefore, optimization is the most important project you can undertake. For a socially isolated teenager who had never quite figured out how to fit into the normal world, this wasn't a subculture. It was a rulebook, the first one that had ever made sense to him. Then COVID hit, schools shut down, and Braden went deeper. He has described the pandemic period as being online for 14 hours a day. No school, no social pressure, no reason to pretend he was adapting. Just a bedroom, a screen, and an algorithm feeding him the next thing. Looksmaxx.org forums all day. Skipping his online classes, playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and absorbing, hour after hour, a worldview that was slowly becoming the only one he trusted. And then, at 14 years old, Braden Peters did something that should have been medically impossible to do alone. He ordered testosterone off the internet, by mail, to his house, and injected himself with it. His parents found the supply and threw it out, so he set up his own P.O. box and kept ordering. They found that stash too, and for a period he was sent to live with his grandmother as a consequence. But he kept ordering. He later told The Atlantic that his parents eventually gave up, realizing, in his words, that there was kinda nothing they could do to stop my ascension. That word, ascension, is Looksmaxxing vocabulary for becoming more physically dominant. He had fully adopted their language, their logic, their entire worldview. When the system you are living inside starts producing your vocabulary, it is no longer influencing you. It is replacing you. The Looksmaxxing community became more than a forum. He became a moderator on Looksmaxx.org. He described himself publicly as a lab rat for the community, someone willing to test on his own body what everyone else only theorized about online. The community gave him status, purpose, and an identity. 3 things high school had never managed to give him. The obsession ran deeper than anyone outside these forums understood. By the time he was 19, years of self-administered testosterone had, by his own account, left him infertile. His body had stopped producing it naturally. He said this publicly without visible emotion, as if it were a simple trade he had made and was at peace with. Here is what medical science actually says about that. Anabolic steroids in adolescence suppress the hormonal feedback loop that controls natural testosterone production. Extended or early use can permanently damage this system. This is not speculation, it is documented endocrinology. What Braden was doing to his body in his bedroom at 14 was, by any medical standard, severe and irreversible self-harm. The Looksmaxxing community framed it as optimization. The medical community calls it dangerous. But danger was not a deterrent inside this world. In Looksmaxxing ideology, risk is evidence of commitment. Pain is progress. Willingness to suffer is what separates the ones who ascend from the ones who stay ordinary. And Braden believed this more fully than almost anyone else in these forums. For the first time in his life, a system was rewarding him for being exactly the kind of person he already was. Obsessive, relentless, willing to go further than anyone else. Then in the fall of 2024, he tried something different. He tried being normal. In the fall of 2024, Braden Peters enrolled at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. He lasted 3 weeks. Campus police discovered steroids in his dorm room. He was expelled. Sacred Heart did not publicly comment on the case, citing FERPA, the federal student privacy law. Braden talked about it openly on stream. He moved into a job at a restaurant. And here is where the Looksmaxxing mythology does something interesting with failure. The expulsion was not framed as a setback. It was reframed as confirmation. The institution had rejected him because it could not contain him. He had tried their world, and the world had come for him first. So he chose another path, one where performance, not credentials, determined your rank. When an institution kicks you out and you turn that rejection into your origin story, the institution just handed you your first piece of content. It just doesn't know it yet. He moved to Miami. He started streaming on Kick, a platform that had built its brand specifically as a home for controversial creators that other platforms had restricted. He started posting on TikTok, and he picked a name: Clavicular. The name is not random. In Looksmaxxing culture, the clavicle bone is treated as one of the most important markers of male visual dominance. Wide clavicles equal a wide frame. A wide frame means visual dominance, the first thing people register when you walk into a room. The community had elevated this bone to near mythological status. He named himself after it, not as a joke, as a statement of what he was about. The early streams were simple. He appeared on camera in deliberate, controlled ways. The posture was tested and practiced. The confidence was not fully real yet, but it was being constructed out loud, in public, one upload at a time. Every view was data. Every comment was feedback. Every engagement metric was a signal of what worked and what didn't. He adjusted constantly. The algorithm taught him fast. Certainty performs better than hesitation. Conviction outperforms nuance. You don't need to be right. You need to sound like you have never once considered the alternative. And then in September 2025, Wired magazine called him one of Looksmaxxing's most popular influencers. That was the moment the internet decided he existed. Clavicular stopped being something he was testing and started being the system he was following. By 2025, Clavicular was not just streaming, he was formatted for virality. His content aligned with Looksmaxxing's peak cultural moment in a way that felt almost engineered. What had been a niche forum subculture was spreading to TikTok, Reddit, YouTube Shorts. Suddenly, millions of young men were talking about facial structure and bone structure and ascension as if it were a religion. Clavicular was already there, already fluent in the language, already performing the ideology at a level nobody else was willing to match. He streamed 8 to 12 hours a day. He ate on camera. He trained on camera. He injected himself on camera. He was not just creating content about Looksmaxxing. He was demonstrating it in real time as a living experiment, which is exactly how he described himself on Looksmaxx.org years earlier. And the practices themselves were the story. Bonesmashing. If you are not familiar, it is exactly what it sounds like. Repeatedly striking your own facial bones with a hammer, with your fist, with the belief that the microfractures will cause the bone to heal back denser and more defined.
So you're bracing yourself, you don't have to do it, and then you're hitting real hard, and what this is doing is this is creating microfractures, and according to Wolff's Law, the bone is going to grow back stronger.
There is no verified medical evidence that this works. There is substantial medical evidence that it causes tissue damage and carries serious risks of nerve injury and skeletal damage. Medical professionals have been extremely direct on this point. He used methamphetamine as an appetite suppressant. He said it openly. Not as a confession, as strategy. He had spoken about taking anabolic steroids for years. He discussed peptides, Aqualix, a fat-dissolving acid, beta blockers, retatrutide. He told 60 Minutes Australia, "I'd say I've pretty much tried it all. I haven't had plastic surgery, but just about everything else in terms of biohacking. You can really do a lot with your looks with simple pharmaceutical intervention." He had also publicly described performing what he called dick-ups. placing weights on his genitals to increase girth. He documented this on stream. He referred to women as foids, shorthand for female humanoids, and as targets. He framed relationships as outcomes of visual dominance, not human connection. The practices were the product. The more extreme the content, the more it spread. The more it spread, the more extreme the content had to become to keep spreading. By February 2026, according to the New York Times, Braden Peters was earning more than $100,000 a month from his Kick live streams alone. Not including TikTok, not including subscription content. Kick streams alone. The Atlantic called him the newest star and most recognizable member of the Looksmaxxing movement. Rolling Stone called him a premier figure. The Guardian placed him among the most prominent influencers in the Looksmaxxing community. He had been profiled by Wired, GQ, CNN, and the BBC. A teenager from Hoboken who had been bullied in high school was now being written about in every major publication in the English-speaking world. And then the content started crossing lines that even the internet found uncomfortable. In November 2025, two things happened that shifted how even his own audience was looking at him. First, a video circulated from one of his Kick streams in which he injected his then 17-year-old girlfriend with fat-dissolving peptides. On camera, the girlfriend had not been publicly identified. The injection was performed without any visible medical supervision or sterile environment.
During a live stream last night, CBS News chief correspondent Matt Gutman has more.
The clip spread immediately across commentary platforms and sparked the first serious mainstream debate about what exactly was being normalized on this channel. Second, YouTube terminated his original channel. The stated reason was facilitating access to websites selling regulated goods. This was the first major platform action against him, and it barely slowed anything down. He was already building his primary audience on Kick, which had positioned itself deliberately as a more permissive alternative to YouTube and Twitch. Around the same time, a separate stream clip circulated of him injecting a well-known influencer named Jenny Popach with Aqualix, a fat-dissolving acid used in cosmetic procedures, during a live stream. Jenny Popach was 19 years old at the time. This was not presented as medical content. It was presented as content. Melbourne aesthetic surgeon Dr. Angie Taras appeared in the 60 Minutes Australia segment that aired in April 2026. She described his practices as shocking and stated there was absolutely no scientific evidence behind most of the things that they were talking about. Clinical psychologist Dr. Zach Seidler warned that Looksmaxxing trend carries a, quote, real dark undercurrent of nihilism, telling young men that without maximizing their appearance, you will not be able to have a mate. None of the expert warnings slowed the algorithm. His audience was growing. The controversy was generating commentary. The commentary was generating new audiences. New audiences were generating more commentary. The cycle was self-sustaining. In the attention economy, controversy and admiration are the exact same fuel. The algorithm does not know the difference between someone watching because they love you and someone watching because they think you are going to get yourself killed. By late 2025, Clavicular had also become entangled in the broader political and social ecosystem that surrounds Looksmaxxing culture, the Manosphere. He was photographed and appeared in content with Andrew Tate, the polarizing influencer accused of sex trafficking, and with white nationalist commentator Nick Fuentes. He had also appeared alongside Sneeko and other figures in this ecosystem. He called women foids. He discussed which politicians were chads based on their physical appearance. He had, functionally, merged the Looksmaxxing project with a broader far-right influencer world, even as he continued to describe himself as apolitical. And then came Christmas Eve. December 24th, 2025, Christmas Eve, Miami-Dade County, Florida. Clavicular was IRL streaming on Kick, broadcasting himself moving through Miami in real time. He was in his Tesla Cybertruck. He had been targeted earlier that same day by a man who had a history of harassing multiple streamers. what streaming culture calls a stream sniper. Earlier in the evening, the same man had thrown red liquid on Clavicular and fellow streamer Neon during a previous encounter. On camera, with hundreds of thousands of viewers watching live, the man climbed onto the hood of Clavicular's Cybertruck. Someone off camera encouraged Peters to start driving.
Start driving with this guy in the car. Drive.
He accelerated forward. The man fell from the vehicle. Peters asked if he was dead.
Oh my god! You probably just ran him over, Clap. Oh my god! Oh my god! Off the car. He was on the car. Oh my god.
Is he dead?
I don't know.
Hopefully.
A woman next to him said she did not know. Peters replied, "Hopefully." Police responded and questioned Peters at the scene. He told an officer he had acted in self-defense, alleging the man had been surrounding his car and that he believed someone appeared to have a pistol. Florida's Stand Your Ground law factored significantly into what happened next. Peters was questioned and released without charges. The investigation continued, but no criminal action was announced against him. The man who was struck was reported to be critically injured but alive. He was reportedly unresponsive at the scene before being taken to hospital. An associate of Adin later confirmed he survived. Kik banned his account within hours. No public explanation was given about whether it was temporary or permanent. His response, posted to X the following day, an AI-generated image of himself in his Cybertruck running over the man captioned, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." A phone call between Peters and fellow streamer Adin, recorded and widely circulated, showed Ross advising him, "You need to be live for this, okay? You need to be recording something," and urging him not to answer questions publicly. A Florida gubernatorial candidate named James Fishback tweeted that Peters had done nothing wrong. Days later, Peters announced he was joining FaZe Clan, the esports organization. At the exact moment, 5 of its longest-serving members, including a 14-year veteran, were quitting over contract disputes. The timing was, at minimum, remarkable. The Cybertruck clip was called by The Atlantic perhaps the most viral moment. And if the most viral moment of your life is a live stream of you running someone over and hoping they are dead, the system you are operating inside has lost any relationship with normal human outcomes. 3 days after the Cybertruck incident, Braden Peters sat down for an interview with conservative political commentator Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire. In the interview, Peters called Vice President J.D. Vance subhuman based on his physical appearance and called California Governor Gavin Newsom a Chad. When this spread online, and it spread immediately, Peters clarified, "It wasn't like a political statement at all. I was just saying he's fat." He subsequently announced on social media that there would be no more politics. This lasted approximately 3 weeks. January 2026. A video surfaced from a Miami Beach nightclub called Vendome. In it, Peters appears alongside Nick Fuentes, Sneeko, Tristan Tate, Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, and Justin Waller. The group can be seen singing along to a Kanye West song from 2025 titled. Peters defended this publicly, writing that it was just a song and describing it as funny that the group had enough status and influence to get the song played at a club. Miami Beach Mayor Stephen Miner publicly condemned the incident. Several Miami club owners, including prominent nightlife figure David Grootman, announced bans on the group from their venues. February 12, 2026, days after his arrest in Arizona, which we will get to in a moment, Clavicular walked the runway at New York Fashion Week for designer Elena Velez's Fall and Winter 2026-2027 show, in collaboration with Ramalia Corporation. The Spectator described him as the star of the evening and characterized his presence as evidence that the algorithm has stepped onto the runway. The Arizona arrest. In February 2026, Peters was detained near Arizona State University in Scottsdale. He was charged with 2 felonies: possession of a forged instrument, a fake ID used to enter a bar while underage, and possession or use of a dangerous drug, an Adderall pill and an oral steroid found during the search. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office declined to prosecute, citing no reasonable likelihood of conviction. Peters' response on X? You just got a mog. March 2026, Peters was arrested in Florida on misdemeanor battery charges. Authorities alleged he had instigated a physical fight between his girlfriend, Violet Lentz, and influencer Jenny Popach, and he had posted the footage online for engagement. A source close to Peters told USA Today that the incident stemmed from Violet accusing Popach of flirting with Clavicular during a live stream, and that Peters was not directly involved in the physical altercation itself. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission is also separately investigating him in connection with a video appearing to show him shooting an alligator, although TMZ later reported the alligator was already dead at the time. April 12, 2026. 60 Minutes Australia aired a segment featuring an interview conducted by journalist Adam Hegarty. When Hegarty questioned Peters about his association with Andrew Tate and the incel origins of Looksmaxxing, Peters made several half-hearted attempts to insult his interviewer before walking out of the interview entirely. The segment aired regardless. By April 2026, Clavicular was simultaneously the subject of arrest records, a Netflix documentary, a New York Times profile, a Rolling Stone feature, a lawsuit, and a 60 Minutes Australia segment. At 20 years old, none of this slowed the channel. April 13th, 2026. Clavicular was live streaming on Kick. He was at a mall and then a restaurant with another streamer who goes by the Cuban Tarzan. Earlier in the stream, he had encouraged that streamer to choke him and appeared to convulse on camera. By the end of the stream, he was slurring his words. He told people around him that he was effing destroyed. He needed to sit down. Then he stopped moving. The stream cut off. Miami Police and Fire confirmed to USA Today that they received calls on April 14th for a male suffering a medical emergency near a Miami shopping district. When first responders arrived, the man had already been taken by private transport. A death hoax spread across social media within hours. It was wrong. He had been hospitalized. The following morning, April 15th, Peters posted on X a selfie, his face marked with scars from the life support mask. Platform flagged the image as graphic content. His caption, "Just got home. That was brutal. All of the substances are just a cope trying to feel neurotypical while being in public." But obviously that isn't a real solution. The worst part of tonight was my face descending from the life support mask. Neurotypical is a term used to describe people without autism, ADHD, or other conditions marked by atypical cognitive patterns. He had just described masking, suppressing autistic traits to function in public, as his primary reason for the substance use. The same social alienation that had driven him to Looksmaxx.org at 14 was apparently still the engine underneath everything. CNN's reporting that week noted that less than 24 hours after leaving the hospital, Peters was standing on an elevated surface at a Miami club opening, alone, scrolling his phone while young women danced nearby. He was streaming. Matt DeCintio, a freak show scholar, quoted by CNN, observed, "No one performs a freak show for their own benefit." Around the same time, a civil lawsuit was filed against Peters. The plaintiff, identified in reporting as Mendoza, stated she was 16 years old when Peters approached her to become the female face for Looksmaxxing. She was paid $1,000 to film videos. She was then invited to Peters' home in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. The lawsuit alleges she was given alcohol, sexually assaulted, and later injected with an unapproved drug during a live stream. She was now 18 and filing suit. Peters' representatives did not respond to press requests for comment. The system that built Clavicular was still running. He just wasn't running it anymore. The system was running him. Every chapter of this story followed the same pattern. Escalation disguised as evolution. A socially alienated teenager from New Jersey who found a subculture that rewarded his obsessive analytical mind and his willingness to suffer. Who built an identity around it, one stream at a time. Who went viral not despite the extremity of what he was doing to his body, but because of it. Who got banned, arrested, sued, and hospitalized, and whose audience did not shrink at any of those moments. It grew. The Spectator called him both the victim and the perpetrator of the culture he represents. CNN compared him to freak show performers, people who risked their health in public because someone was watching. The Atlantic called his ideology a brand of nihilism that entices young men by telling them the world is a hierarchy and they can climb it. They are all correct, and none of them fully explain why the numbers keep going up. Clavicular is not remembered as one fixed thing. He is a mirror, reflecting a version of internet culture that most people would rather not look at directly. The idea that identity is something you can engineer your way into, that pain is strategy, that the audience's attention is worth any cost, and the fact that you watched this video means on some level, you were already curious about that idea. The algorithm knew before you did. His name is Braden Peters. He is 20 years old. He is still streaming, and he is still the most interesting thing the Looksmaxxing internet has ever produced. Not because of what he built, but because of what it cost him to build it.